Welcome to the Redefining Enoughness series with me, Clare Gent.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Redefining Enoughness for Mum series. Maybe you're listening while juggling the chores or simply just catching your breath. I'm so glad you're here. You're not alone, and you're in very good company. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Rebecca from Yoga with Parents, and we're going to be talking about the pressure to do it all, how it can kind of leave us feeling stretched thin or maybe reactive, and some gentle ways to reconnect with ourselves in those tough moments. So Dr. Rebecca is going to share her yoga-based approach for moving out of reactivity and into presence, and also a simple practice that you can try right now. She also has a free gift for you at the end. So let's take a breath together. And being here is more than enough. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire. I'm so excited to be here and to connect with you and with other moms over yoga.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to get into this conversation because I think it's a topic that I personally, as a mom, can definitely relate to. So I'm sure a lot of our audience will relate to this a lot. Just to kick off the conversation, with your journey of feeling kind of enough during parenthood, was there like a particular pivotal moment that you noticed the shift, or any turning point that you wanted to discuss with that sense of kind of feeling enough?
Yeah, for sure. It has definitely been a journey for me. So my background is in medicine. And so I spent many years training to become a doctor. And then when my younger daughter was born, I went through a really traumatic birth experience that really kind of knocked me off my path. And I mean that in the best way possible. Sometimes it takes something to totally derail you. But in healing from the trauma, the physical and emotional trauma of that birth, is when I discovered yoga. And I found that with a practice, a regular practice, I began to be able to tune into myself more and what I really needed and what I really wanted. And so originally, when my daughter was born, I had planned to return to work when she was about 6 months old. And it just became very clear to me as I started practicing that that really wasn't what I wanted to do. And I sensed that I needed more time to just recover. And so I ended up taking 3 years actually to be a full-time mom.
Wow.
And I felt at that point just this sense of enoughness, that I felt I was in the right place and I just felt really at home. And I think the practice of yoga was a big part for me of learning to tune into that, to put aside all the cultural conditioning, all the shoulds, that you talk about, the shoulds. I spent so much time training. I should go back to work sooner rather than later. It just helped me really be in touch with my authentic self and take the action that I needed to heal. And I'm just so thankful to have had that time because I feel it's made me a better mom, a better partner, and just a better person. I think I would have burned out, honestly, if I went back sooner.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful, vulnerable story. I think that's a situation that many people, many mums can relate to, because that shift from kind of previous motherhood into motherhood is so remarkable. And that's just beautiful that yoga kind of showed you the way to listen to yourself and to your own intuition and to your needs, and ultimately your family's needs, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure your daughter will be eternally grateful when she's maybe a bit older that you did look after her for those first 3 years, because that's just so magical and so special.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess leaning more into the topic we want to talk today of having feeling that pressure to do it all, and that combined with that sense of maybe not feeling good enough because we're not doing those shoulds. How in your work, kind of working with parents, how do you see this showing up And also, if you have any particular examples in your own life, feel free to obviously share some stories.
Yeah, I mean, I can lead with my own experience here because I kind of hit this point when after my daughter was born and I was considering going back to work, and we had in-laws helping out and it was wonderful, but I found that I was teetering near the brink of burnout. Because I felt that I should be taking care of everyone's feelings. I think this is something that a lot of moms can relate to. And I describe it as kind of like emotional roaming, like, when your cell phone's in a low service area and it's just roaming, and it drains the battery so quickly. And I didn't realize it at the time, but my battery was like in the red. And so I think there's a lot of this, personal circumstances growing up, but a lot of cultural conditioning also, particularly for women, about kind of being the caretaker, managing everybody else's emotions. And it's just, I think there's almost so much energy to go around. And when we keep kind of roaming like that, then we end up completely empty and there's nothing left to give. And then everyone basically suffers at that point. And so I think in my work with parents, what I like to do is to bring in the philosophy of yoga, which I know, Claire, you're also really, I've seen that you posted about ahimsa and satya, and I just think these things are indispensable for modern moms because we need that reminder every day and we need an embodied way to remember that. And I think that's where yoga really shines because it's not just the philosophy, which is very helpful on its own, but we move and we actually have this embodied sense of being kind to ourselves, of not harming ourselves. And it makes, when everything's integrated like that, I think it's so much more powerful. And so that's what I really like to share with parents is combining the philosophy with the embodied practices to really make a meaningful shift in how we think about things and how we're showing up.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Completely. I love that you're mentioning kind of yoga off the mat because I think it's not as widely known, and actually that's really where the magic lies. So many people, possibly like us, we come to yoga through the movement, but then we explore and understand that it's so multifaceted and there's actually such deeper meaning and and power, I guess, ultimately, right?
Absolutely.
In yoga philosophy. So I guess maybe for the audience who are feeling that pressure to do it all and then maybe worried about heading into that burnout state that you were in, like, are there any particular warning signs that you would say to look out for and ways, maybe using your model of the reconnection path, of how you can actually stop that before it goes too far down the line, I guess?
Sure. So what I've developed is something that I call the disconnection loop to kind of conceptualize what a lot of us go through, particularly as moms. And so the starting point is self-disconnection. And by that, I mean disconnect from your inner feelings, a disconnect from your body, and a disconnection from your inner compass, that kind of authentic intuition. And then once that starts, and I feel this is kind of a synthesis of my understanding of yoga philosophy and trauma, which I've dived into after my birth. But combining all these things, self-disconnect seems to be a very common theme. And I think that it is actually one of the deepest causes of why we struggle so much as parents, as moms. So from self-disconnect, then comes this kind of overextension, not knowing where our limits are and refusing rest, kind of pushing through. And then after that comes kind of chronic stress and exhaustion, maybe resentment starts to build. And then from there, some people may go on to a complete collapse, just overwhelm or full burnout. And then it becomes a vicious cycle because when you reach a state like that, you end up disconnecting with yourself even more, kind of just to get through the day. And then the cycle just kind of keeps going and going. So this is what I've observed both in myself and, in my studies and observing other parents.
Mhm.
And so the way that I've tried to work with this is through the reconnection path. And this is based on kind of my own journey out of my near burnout. And so on the reconnection path, there's sort of 5 stepping stones, I guess I could call them.
Mhm.
And the first one is to pause.
Mhm.
Because whenever we want to make any meaningful change, the first step is to pause. Like we have to
Yeah.
stop what we're doing, right? You realize like
Totally.
something is not working and we got to just stop.
Yeah.
But there's different layers to pausing. So there's just kind of the stopping and assessing. There's pausing in reactive moments. That's one thing that I'm focusing on helping parents with. So there's the pause aspect. Then there's the practice. And so that's where I like to integrate the practices of yoga into family life because I think it's very difficult often for parents and moms to reliably get out to a 1 hour yoga class sometimes consistently.
Yeah.
So how do we bring that practice into our lives, make it more sustainable? The third is presence, and that kind of comes naturally as we begin to practice more and we begin to draw our attention inward and not get so pulled out by external circumstances. So presence. And then perspective. So the yoga philosophy aspect of just kind of widening our lens and understanding the bigger picture of who we want to be, how we want to show up for ourselves and for other people. And then the last kind of stepping stone is protection. And so that's how are we going to make this sustainable in our day-to-day lives? Because there's, I think for parents, almost like a tsunami of things going on at all times. So consciously setting up guardrails and places during your day where you can check in with yourself and take stock of how you're doing and take corrective action or supportive action if needed. So yeah, those are kind of the 5 stepping stones: to pause, to practice, presence, perspective, and protection. So that's kind of the framework that I like to work with.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I think that makes it really, really relatable as well, because as you said, especially in busy mom lives, possibly like juggling other commitments, work, family, etc., that you don't have time to go for a 1 hour yoga class, and
Right.
kind of understanding that you don't have to do a 1 hour yoga class to practice yoga.
Exactly.
And yeah, dismantling that kind of I'm not good enough if I don't do a 1 hour yoga class, right? Really bringing it into your day-to-day life and making it more accessible.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful. Is there a short practice or anything you would like to share with us quickly?
Sure, I could
Yeah,
a very quick practice. Yes, let me just pause this while I move the camera over,
yeah,
and
no
then
problem. For everyone who's just listening, I'll obviously have all the details of Rebecca and her work down in the description below. So if you want to find more about the Reconnection Path and also Rebecca's free gift, then you can find all the links in the description below.
Great. So this is going to be just a very short practice that you can do anywhere. You don't need a yoga mat. We're going to be doing a simple forward fold with our hands interlaced behind and up overhead. And so really the goal of this practice is to just first of all take stock of where you may be feeling tension in your body. And so, the common places are kind of in your face, in your jaw, your neck, and your shoulders, right? A lot of times when we feel stressed or fearful, our body kind of curls up into this shape. And so much of the yoga asana is about opening everything up. And so this is just one little micro practice that you can do anywhere. You have, a couple feet. So I'm going to demonstrate it for you now. Okay. You just make sure this can capture the whole thing. Okay. So can you still hear me okay, Claire?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yes.
And we can see you really well.
Great. So you'll just stand up tall and root down through your feet and roll your shoulders up towards your ears and then down your back, And just take stock of anywhere you feel tension in your body. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the breath to kind of expand into any areas that feel tense. So you'll interlace your knuckles behind you and draw them down away from your head, open your chest. And then you take a deep breath in, imagine sending breath to anywhere you feel tightness or resistance. And then on your exhale, slight bend in your knees as you tip forward and your knuckles come up and overhead. And you can just stay here for 2 or 3 breaths, breathing deeply into your belly. Imagine dissolving that stress as you breathe in. And on your exhale, releasing any expectations, any pressure, any things to do. So you can just stay for 1 or 2 more breaths here. And then unclasp your knuckles and bring your hands to your hips and slowly, slowly, slowly stand back up. Drop your hands by your sides and just notice how you're feeling after that. Maybe notice the flow of the blood in your arms. And try to find a little more expansion and lightness with each breath. So that's it. It's a simple practice that you can really do anywhere.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I did that and I just felt, just a huge opening, a huge amount of kind of energy flooding into my heart, a big sense of relief. So yeah, I think that's a really beautiful one to do.
I'm glad it was helpful.
Thank you. Finally, before we finish, could you let us know about the free gift you have for everyone today?
Absolutely. So I have a guide called the Before You Snap Guide. And so this guide includes 3 practices that you can use in reactive moments, in that moment where you feel like you're about to tip over and snap at your kids, which happens on a semi-routine basis, I think, for many of us. So it's just 3 simple yoga practices that you can try to start integrating yoga into your life more, to, practice yoga aside from on the mat.
Perfect. And like I said earlier, we'll have all the links in the description below. So everyone definitely go check that out. Well, that's it. I want to keep this intentionally short and sweet because we all know that busy moms don't have a lot of time. So thank you so much for joining me, Rebecca. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure everyone is going to get so much out of this session.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire. It's been an absolute pleasure connecting with you. And I hope that this will be helpful to moms.
Definitely. Thank you. And everyone else, please stay tuned for the next episode in this series.